Welcome to Inside XCity, a behind-the-scenes look at the journalists and their work. So, Cara, tell us about your piece for XCity Plus.
So it's called Lightbulb Moments. It's basically about, obviously as journalists, we're always trying to come up with ideas. We're always told how important it is to have fresh ideas and pitches the whole time. But what happens when people get stuck and just feel, so hard to think of one. So I had a really interesting chat with a guy called Klein. He sort of started off as a journalist in newsprint and then sort of segued over to TV and has made lots of documentaries since and won an Oscar, I believe, and lots of other accolades and been controller of BBC4, so he's a very impressive guy. But we just had a really interesting chat about how he comes up with ideas and his process, and I just thought lots of journalists would be really interested to read that for those times when they needed a bit of inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. And so we were curious, how did you come to interview Richard?
So I actually got in touch with him originally for listings in the XCity magazine because he's an alumni. So we just had a really great conversation about all sorts of things, but we ended up speaking so long about this ideas thing that I just thought it was such a shame not to use it all and explore it further.
And out of all of the tips that he gave during your interview, what do you think was the most useful tip?
I guess the one I found most interesting was actually to think inside the box rather than outside the box. So he was sort of saying that obviously if you're always trying to be different and come up with some idea, it's sort of impossible. And often if something hasn't been done, there's a reason. It might be because it's not that interesting. So he was saying to kind of think inside the box, think of things that people are interested in and that have been done, but kind of give it a twist.
So in your journalism career, have you experienced times when you felt uninspired? And will any of his tips help?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny, isn't it? I don't know if you guys find this, but it will be, sometimes I'll just have so many ideas and write them all down, and then there'll be like a week where I just feel like, oh God. And it's always when you're trying too hard, isn't it? Trying too hard to think of something. So yeah, I definitely think his tip about sort of not trying, just letting ideas come, it would just be when you're on a run or in the shower, but that's something that definitely has helped me.
Eloise Feilden has reported on the new podcasting module headed by Sandy Waugh, freelance producer for LBC and Bauer.
Why did City introduce this module?
Apparently, the tutors had been thinking about it for a long time, and there'd been quite a lot of discussion on different courses, so broadcast and maybe TV, that the students really wanted a podcasting module because it's like a huge part of the media industry currently and growing. And so it's kind of been in the works for quite a while. And then I think Sandy made the decision that it would work across all pathways because magazine students would still need those skills and be interested in doing it. And this year just happened to be the year that it worked.
And so this module has enabled students across different MA pathways to work together. Why was this important and what did this add?
I guess the reason why I did the module was because I felt like we do a lot of things in print as magazine journalists, and it's really useful to have that kind of audio editing skill. So it's sort of another skill in your roster. Is that a phrase? And yeah, it's just something that applies to anything. It's always useful to have that skill. It's a massively growing industry. And, you know, you look at the Telegraph, they've now got this huge podcasting branch, and like Times Radio is really big now, so I think it can apply to magazine and newspaper just as well as it can apply to, you know, say BBC Sounds or something like that.
So Eloise, what were the challenges that Sandy faced when establishing this module?
Well, obviously we've done the module in a year when no one can really do it in person, so for something that's so hands-on, it makes it so much more difficult. But at the same time, when I spoke to her, she said it's actually made it much easier that they, instead of having to teach everyone in class at the same time, they've just put a series of tutorials, like kind of YouTube tutorials of how to use all of the software onto the web page, and it actually, in her opinion, made it so much easier because each student can go back, rewatch them, learn at their own speed, and it doesn't matter that they may have missed something or other people are kind of further ahead than you because you know that you have unlimited access.
And from your personal experience, how did you find this module?
I really liked it because podcasts are something that I've always been really interested in. And when we started the module, I kind of said to Sandy, I probably spend more of my time listening to podcasts than I do not listening to them. So it was really nice to be able to have access to kind of how they work and how they get put together, and just to see how much work goes into something that often feels like just a casual chat between friends.
Tune back in on Friday when we talk to XCity's Bea Tridmus and XCity Plus's Sophie Ward.